As you can see, there is a window, there are chairs, and there is a vase or a vase. And if you can make it out, there is a welcome. It looks like something else the way it's set up. But that's what is in front of me now. And today is Thursday. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. And I am not going to play around, although it may seem like I'm a little bit slow. It's because I want to say these things correctly. And somebody says, you don't sound like you know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's exactly what the devil will tell you. And he not only will tell you that, he's not afraid to tell me that. Yes, the devil is not afraid. If you think he is, I'm sorry. Because he's not afraid. He's been around a long time. He knows the rules, and he is playing for keeps. That's what he's doing. He's playing for keeps. He wants to keep you in the dark so that you will not know the light and become what you could. He wants you to remain in darkness. And he will darken your mind. That's what he will do. The God of this world has darkened the minds. And you say, well, Bob, who has a mind? And I ask you, why don't you answer your own question? Who has a mind? Does God have one? Does God have a mind? Can you answer that question correctly? You should be able to. Does God have a mind? Yes, that's the answer to that question. God has a mind. And he can change it, or he can keep it. That means what it means. God can change his mind. God can think. You have been told that God knows everything, but you don't know everything. I want you to figure out, how did God find out things? Did he find things out or not? Did God find things out or not? Has God learned anything? I've asked that question before. And some people said, well, God don't have to learn. Who says God does not? I don't. I don't say God does not. Unless it's God does not lie. I will say that. God does not lie. The true light. Have you ever heard that term, the true light? There is a true light. And the true light comes to enlighten. That means it was dark, but no longer is it dark, because the light has come. Now, I know that I only have one book. That's all I want. One book. You can have 100. You can have 1,000. You can have 10,000. I want one book. That's all I want is one. I want one God. That's all I want is one. I don't need 2 gods, 3 gods, or 4 gods. I need one God. And there is only one God that I'm interested in. The rest are what they are. There came a man. Those words have been read by everyone who has turned to the gospel according to John. That's just a fact. If you have a book titled Bible or Holy Bible, it's got the gospel according to John, or it's got John's gospel in it. That's what I've got right here. And it does not begin like Matthew, Mark, or Luke. Now, why you would suspect that this one is more important than another one, it would have to be because you were getting a wrong perspective. This one is no better than the first 3 that are in the New Testament. My Bible says it's got a page in it that says New Testament. That means when I get to this page, I can show it to you right here. As you can see, there's my book. There's a separation between old and new. There's the pages. Back here is the old. Anywhere I go over here is the new. And as you can see, I will give you a visual. Matthew, the gospel according to Matthew. You see, that's what's on that page right there. This gospel is just as important as the next. There's no one of these is more important than the other. No gospel. You got Matthew's gospel, and you get over here, you can find the gospel. It'll probably have the writing on the top of the page that says, see it right there, the gospel according to Mark. Now, is Mark's gospel important? Certainly. How about Luke? Is Luke's gospel important? See, right here. You can go, I can turn the pages. And you say, Bob, you're wasting time. Really? I don't know if I'm wasting time or not. The gospel according to Luke. I mean, I want some people to understand that I do have a Bible. But I do want them to understand correctly that Matthew, Mark, and Luke and John are the first in the New Testament. See right there? The gospel according to John. None of these have preeminence over the other. One of them is not more important than the other. That's not the way this book is written. What's important is that you understand the truth. And the truth is not muddled. Somebody says, oh, you just don't know what you're talking about. Oh, yeah. It's so muddy now, you'll never know the truth. Yeah, right. If I have the light, the true light, coming in to me, enlightening me, do you see where my thumb is? That's my thumb. Amen. Sent from God, whose name was John, is right there. He came for a witness, that he might bear witness of the light, that all might believe through him. Who came? John. John came. Why did he come? So he could speak. The man sent from God, whose name was John, he came for a reason, for a witness, that he might bear witness of the light, and that all might believe through him. Why did John come? So that he could speak and people could believe. He came and he had some light. John had some light. Because why? It says, sent from God. A man sent from God has light. Just like an angel sent from God has light. He was not the light, but came that he might bear witness of the light. The light. Have you ever heard the term sons of light? That term, those words are in the Bible. Jesus spoke those words. He did. Jesus said a lot of words, and he got his words from God. The words that he spoke on many occasions were not his words, but they were God's words. He was in the world. Who was in the world? Jesus was in the world. He was. He had been waited on for years. A woman at the well was not ignorant of that fact. She was looking for, and like I said, don't make this more important than the first three. Because when you do, you have erred in judgment. And you don't want to err in judgment. You really don't. As many as received him, he gave the right to become children of God to those who believe in his name. John came speaking, and those who heard him were given an opportunity to become what? A disciple of John. That's what they could become. A disciple of John. And he had some disciples. But he knew that he was not the light, but that he knew that he was before the light. He had been born Oh, yes, his mother wanted a child, and so did Zacharias. But this child had been born because of the will of God. God sent an angel to Zachariah and made some things known to him. You don't see that in John. You can find that earlier. That's before you get to this page. So you don't need to start at this page and think you're getting everything you need. You need to read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and then you will have read what you need to read. Until then, you're just sitting duck. Sitting duck. That's what you are. Jesus did not make the world. He didn't. If you think Jesus made the world, you've already got your mind blown. This is not even about Jesus necessarily. What did it say? The man sent from God, his name was John. See there? Came a man sent from God whose name was John. We're talking about John. And we're not talking about John, this one. This John is a John, but this John that we're reading about here is not this John. I'm trying to help you understand some things here this morning. John was born months ahead of Jesus. John came before Jesus. But nobody had told anybody that there would be a man coming such as John. Although Elijah must come first. And Jesus said, for those of you who want to believe it, Elijah came. They killed him. That's what he said. As many as received John, they were given the right to become children of God to those who believe in his name. Whose name? They didn't have to believe in Jesus' name. They didn't. What they had to believe in was John sent from God? If the man John is sent from God or sent by God, does he have authority? That's what I ask you. Does he have authority? I can say that about any man. I want you to answer that question. Do you think that any man sent by God has authority? That's the question. Grace and truth are words that you find in the Bible. Jesus grew up and he had favor with God and with men. That's what Jesus did. And God was pleased with his doings. Let me ask you, how pleased is God with yours? Are you trying to please God?